You know, when you have a show about gratitude, you've got to be grateful for your sponsors. And in our life of gratitude, you know, we all have guides. Somebody that guided us through our lives, that made us appreciate those things that we have. And that's why I'm so delighted and so grateful for our sponsor, Life Guides. Life Guides is a peer-to-peer community that helps people navigate through their day-to-day stressors by providing a place of empathy, listening, wisdom, and support with a guide who has walked in your shoes, experiencing the same challenge or life experience as you. A true life guide. And because you're listening to our gratitude podcast, if you go to their website, lifeguides.com/schedule a demo and add the code HEALTHY2021. The code is HEALTHY2021 in the free text box. You'll get 2 months of their services for free. 2 months for free. So sign up, show your team you care, get a life guide. Be grateful for those guides in your life, as I am grateful for our sponsor, Life Guides. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Leading with Gratitude Live. I'm your host, Chester Elton, the Apostle of Appreciation, coming to you live and in color from the Gratitude Epicenter of the Universe, Summit, New Jersey. A lot of people don't know that. And I can't tell you how much we love our gratitude audience. Thank you so much for giving us just 30 minutes out of your day. You know, we say, look, give us 30 minutes and we'll give you great information, great inspiration, and a roadmap to a life of gratitude, not just at work, in your personal life as well. And it's all coming to you, you know, streaming live on LinkedIn with our wonderful sponsor, Methods Of. And if you're looking to improve your leadership skills, no better place than methodsof.com. You've got Marshall Goldsmith there. You've got Sally Helgeson. You've got Hortense Le Gentil and one of the great marketing minds ever, Martin Lindstrom. Well, for listening into our show today, when you sign up for their annual membership, just put Gratitude 2022, you get a 50% discount, and that's a great deal. Well, listen, I am so excited to introduce you to our guest. I've known Michael Bungay Stanier for a long time, MBS as we call him, and he is beyond remarkable. So let me tell you a little bit about our amazing guest. Michael Bungay Stanier is at the forefront of shaping how organizations around the world make being coach-like an essential leadership competency. His book, The Coaching Habit, is the best-selling coaching book of this century, with nearly 1 million copies sold and thousands of 5-star reviews on Amazon. In 2019, he was named the #1 thought leader in coaching. Michael is the first Canadian Coach of the Year, has been named a global coaching guru since 2014, and oh, by the way, he's a Rhodes Scholar. Michael founded Box of Crayons, a learning and development company that helps organizations transform from advice-driven to curiosity-led. He has a new book that we're going to talk about today called How to Begin, Start Doing Something That Matters. It's a fascinating book, and you should own at least 2 copies, one for you and one for someone you love. He is brilliant, he is funny, and he's also someone that I am lucky enough to call my friend. Welcome to the show, MBS, Michael Bungay Stanier. Delighted to have you here, man.
Oh man, Chester, that is such a nice introduction, and thanks for putting all that video together. I feel like we're setting people up for a massive anticlimax now, because there's no way I can possibly rise to the standard you've just set for me, but I'll do my very best. But thank you, Chester. You are a big-hearted man, smart man, and I'm very happy to be in conversation with you, as I always am.
Oh, good fun. Hey, and listen, we've got a really international audience. We've got Joe in the house. Joe in Onyx shows up every week, and we love him to death. In fact, we got to find some one-on-one time, Joe. Loves MBS's fresh look at life. We've got Murali from India, Daniel from Azerbaijan, from the Ivory Coast. It's going to be a lot of fun. Murali from India. So let's get into it. Now, just a quick heads up to everybody. We're going to have a lot of fun, and I know you're going to have lots of questions for Michael. We have Janice Perkins, JP, in the Question Command Center in Wichita, Kansas. When you put your stuff in the chat, she's going to call those great questions, and we're going to try to stump the expert, MBS. Okay, Michael. So let's get into it. I've got all these great questions for you. So you're the king of curiosity. I love when you say you're going to go from facts-based companies to curiosity-based. So what was your journey to become this world-class coach and author on coaching and curiosity? Walk me through how that happened.
Yeah, I started off really discovering this type of conversation when I'm a teenager. I'm sitting in a car with my teenage friends. We're talking about the angst of teenage life because, that's part of the deal. You're full of uncertainty about who you are and who you want to be and who you're in love with and who you're not in love with. And I just realized that I was really good at listening to people talk. And I also realized I had no idea what I was doing. I was like, is this helpful? Is this not helpful? Should I be offering up advice? So I actually went and did some training, some crisis telephone training to help youth in crisis, youth kind of thinking suicide and the like. And that was my first training to go, this is what it means to ask a good question, listen more deeply than you might otherwise, and stay curious a little bit longer. And having done that through university, when coaching started blossoming, really kind of grew up in the West Coast. I was living in England at the time. And I was like, all right, something weird and hippie and touchy-feely is happening in California. We should all probably ignore that because we live in London and we're all a bit skeptical and cynical and we wear trendy black clothes. But, I kept watching it. I just went, I wonder if that coaching thing is something that might be a fit for me. And about 20 years ago, I did my first formal coach training, built a coaching practice, realized, ironically, Chester, that I didn't actually enjoy coaching that much. I know, I'm like, what happened? But what I love doing is championing curiosity and championing helping people be more coach-like. So we can move coaching from being a profession to being a way of being with each other. And that's what my books are so often based on.
It's this is your new book. Now I've got all your best-selling books. The Coaching Habit, a must-read if you're going to get into coaching. The Advice Trap, which talks a lot about listening, which is what you just talked about. To be a good listener.
Indeed.
Now, your new book, How to Begin, and you were gracious enough to send me a copy. And I love the opening page. It says, "Don't regret a life half lived." Right? It's right in the opening page. Let me read you the opening line, though. I love this, and it will get your attention. It says, "When my laptop starts up, it displays a date, September 15th, 2043. It's a destination, my death." I love that so much because it grabs your attention, but why start with that other than the fact that it's brilliant, right?
Oh, thank you. I stole that idea from a guy called Kevin Kelly who says, look, we're mortal. And you want to make sure that part of living a life well lived is to understand that you are mortal. It's part of what makes life precious, is this understanding that certainly for me as an atheist as well, I'm like, you get one hit at this, one go around, and then you're done. That's my kind of framework of belief. And I'm like, so I want to make the most of it. I want to figure out, how do I fully express myself? How do I be the best version of myself? How do I contribute to the world in a really powerful way? And it's just one of those known behavior things, which is like the best way to make people change their behavior is show them the gap. I'm showing you the gap between where you are now and how much time you've got left. And what I love about Kevin Kelly, he says, you should think roughly one big project every 5 years. You can argue plus back and forth around that, but if it is, as a rule of thumb, one big project every 5 years, I'm thinking to myself, all right, September 2043, that's about 21 years from now. I've got 4 big projects left in me. What am I up for in this world? And what that does, Chester, is it also makes the opportunity cost of making choices really clear to me, which is like, I need to choose what I'm most enlivened by, what is a worthy goal for me, thrilling and important and daunting. I also need to figure out how to say no to some of the other stuff that I might otherwise default to, that I might otherwise fritter myself away on.
It's so interesting. And I hear this from so many people, and it's finally sinking in for me, right? Because at my age, I've got less in front of me than I have behind me, right? Is that thing about prioritizing and saying no. I'll bet in
Yeah,
your coaching, that's one of the hardest things because you kind of want to do everything all the time,
right,
right? So
right.
I really liked when you said it's September 15th, it's 2043. If I want to get this done, I've got to say no to some other stuff. So how do you get people to say no, especially high achievers?
I want to ask you that actually, Chester, because here's what's interesting. You are, as you say, the apostle of appreciation. You are the guru of generosity. you are the king of kindness, and I could go on with other great alliterations. You know, all of those are stances of generosity, of giving. So you're also, along with your partner Adrian, brilliant at creating, writing books, serving the world. How do you figure out how to say no to things? Because you must have lots of demands on your time, but you're also focused on the projects that make a difference. What's your secret?
Well, actually, I need your coaching on that, Michael. Christy Lawrence, who runs my calendar, she says, you say yes to everything. And
Right.
people will call and say, "Hey, we've got this great, it's a charity, and we don't have any money. We'll buy 3 books." And getting, oh, well, okay. And because you want to be kind, and because you want to be giving, I think I really do. I fault on the side where I say yes to probably too many projects. What
Yeah.
your book has really helped me understand is that you can't say yes forever. And
No.
if you want to get those big things done, there's going to be times where you guys say, look, I have to say no to you so that I can get this done. Now, another quick question for you. If September 15th, 2043 rolls around and you're not dead, are you going to be disappointed?
Very disappointed. I've got plans. I'm going to just put myself out on an iceberg with a bottle of whiskey and just sail off to the horizon. Just for me, saying no, it really helps being clear what I'm trying to say yes to. So the fact that I'm kind of trying to set myself worthy goals and trying to say this is the big thing I'm working on. This year, 2022, my worthy goal is to try and write 3 books. Now,
Wow.
it's really hard to write a book, but I'm going to try and write 3 books in a year. They're not all going to come out this year. They're going to come out over the next 18 months from 2023 onwards. But I'm like, 3 books. Man, if that's really important, if I think that's the best way I can serve the world, I've got to be really crisp and bold around what I say no to. But a bit like you, perhaps, Jester, I'm not that good at it because I like to help and it's easier to say yes than it is to say no. So I try and just make it a little difficult for people. So if somebody says, come and be on my podcast, I say, can you fill out this form first and give me details and make the case for why you'd want me to do this? And I tell
Ooh, that's
people,
good.
and my standard is if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. So I tell people right up front, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. And then the other thing I do, Jester, that's really helped me is I have a pre-prepared way of saying no to people. So I have a little thing called Text Expander, and it means that I can just type in a few keystrokes on my keyboard, and an automatic message pops up. And here's what my message says. It says, "That's very kind of you to invite me. I'm afraid I must say no because I'm fully committed to writing my next book right now, and I'm doing my best to try and resist temptations such as these. I do appreciate the kind thoughts nonetheless." And it's really helpful for me to have a pre-prepared way of saying no, so I don't have to think it through. I don't have to waste kind of cognitive and emotional energy going, how do I let this person down? I'm like, I'm just going to send you my standard no. And most people are incredibly understanding of that.
I think that's genius. I, I'm going to replay this and write that down. It's such a graceful no. We talk about being present and all that good stuff. I love when you met your wife, Marcella. It was at Oxford
Yeah,
University. And what caught your
that's
attention
right.
was the note on her door. She said, "Life is not a dress rehearsal." I love that.
Yeah.
On that note, we're going to go to the question command center. JP has got a great question for you about this idea of mortality. So, JP, take it away.
Hey, Michael. So the question is,
Hey,
does the
JP.
understanding of my mortality keep me from being present in the now? Like, how do you balance that in intention?
Yeah,
Ooh.
I that's a very interesting question. I think there are spiritual practices that are very much about where Buddhism, for instance, is very much like try and be in the now. That's the whole essence of what a meditative practice is, and they're very much practitioners of this idea of meditate on your own death, so that you can be more present in the now. So for me, actually, this idea of understanding my mortality makes me go, all right, Michael, you're meditating on 2043. It's now 2022. What decisions are you making so that what you do now pays off as you live the rest of your life? So I would say in general, at its best, it's not a distraction. I'm sure there's always ways you could make up that it is a distraction, but then you come back, because I think the question actually articulates what you're trying to be, which is like, I want to be clear on my mortality, and therefore I want to be very present to all of the joy and the appreciation of what life is right now.
Excellent. Great answer. Well, if you've just tuned in, we're talking to Michael Bungay Stanier, MBS. He's got a new book out called How to Begin, something everybody should own at least 2 copies of, one for you and one for somebody you really care about. So, Michael, if the people want to take a deeper dive onto your book, where would you send them? What's the best place to go?
Yeah. I'd invite people to go to the howtobegin.com website. Not least because it cost me a fortune to buy How to Begin. Somebody was squatting on it. I had to offer them a bunch of cash to give it to me, which they did eventually. But you can download bits and pieces of the book. There's some quizzes you can take from the book as well. There's just a bunch of resources there. A book, and I'm sure you find this too, Chester. A book is a great starting point, but I try and write my books to change behavior, and that's actually hard because even great books, they really make people go, "I'm going to do things differently now." The book is written very much as, it's kind of very practical. It's like processes to work through, so you can figure out what your worthy goal is, how you commit to it, how you're really sure of the commitment, and then how you cross the threshold. But I've kind of created an ecosystem around it as well that people can go to for additional support if they'd like that. So howtobegin.com.
Well, yeah, that was one of the things I was just so impressed with you. But you've got your little character here that shows up. It's kind of, I know I'm a little here, but I love what you said. Someone once said I was the bastard child of Mr. Pixar's Mr. Incredible and the Muppets' Fozzie Bear. Honestly, there's been no higher compliment. So this little, this little MBS shows up. You also said something I thought was really funny. You said, QR codes finally work. So you've got QR codes and little manuals. I mean, it really is this, to your point, this isn't just a book. This is like a manual workbook adventure to how
Yeah.
you start doing, something that matters. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Chester. I really appreciate that. The little character I'm really excited to have it there. I created it for the previous book, The Advice Trap, and then it just didn't fit because when you're talking about coaching, I'm trying to decenter myself from those books. I'm like, you don't need me teaching you as a guru. I'm trying to give you the tools around this. But for this book, I wanted to role model what it meant to go through the process. I wanted to show the messiness of it, the kind of the struggle, the power of drafting and redrafting. And I've never been a great one for the books where people just make up stories. Let me tell you about Bob. He works in an office. He's really unhappy at the moment. But he had a conversation with his coach called Michael, and suddenly he saw the light. I'm like, I love reading fiction, and I've read too many really good stories to fall for the kind of the fable stories. So I thought I'd just tell my own stories. So not only am I taking people through the process in the book, I tell 2 stories of my own worthy goals. One, what it was like for me to give up being the CEO of the company I founded, Box of Crayons, and how I thought about that to give Shannon, the CEO, the new CEO, the very best chance of really kind of being successful in that role. And the second is launching my own podcast. I'd launched other podcasts before, but I wanted to set myself a goal that was thrilling, kind of lit me up, important, serve the world, and daunting was a stretch goal for me. So I launched that. If anybody follows my 2 pages with MBS podcast, you'll appreciate that I haven't yet hit my 10,000 person download target, which is my goal, but I'm working on it. That's part of the joy of this, which is like you're on the journey.
It's so interesting. I love when you say that these fictitious sort of stories. I always love when I'm reading a business book and it's a pharmaceutical company somewhere in the Northeast, and you kind of go,
Right.
if it's a real story, tell me, get permission. I want to go to JP at the Question Command Center. She's got another great question. And then we've got a wonderful commercial from our publisher about leading with gratitude
Nice.
that we'll get to. But JP, I love this question.
So, Michael, what was the hardest thing you had to let go of in order to fully embrace doing something that matters?
Yeah, I had to give all of my 7 children away. I mean, it was, and I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I don't have any children. Um,
There were
I know
only
there's some people
six.
that
Yeah.
are going, that sounds like a really good idea. Maybe I should give my kids away as well. I find that it's less the big things that you're giving up. Um, but I go two other places. One is a lot of it is just the discipline of keep saying no. So, one of the ways that I make money is I give speeches and people pay me too much money to come and give a talk. And for me to write books, I have to have the discipline of saying no to most of those opportunities because I'm saying writing a book is more important than earning that money for now. But then there's a bigger thing that I'm trying to give up, which is an old identity. So for me to write 3 books, I have to own and step into this idea that I am a writer. Now, even though I've got 6 or 7 books out in the world, I've never thought of myself as a writer before. I think of myself as a teacher or a facilitator or an entrepreneur or something like that. So one of the things I have to do is I have to say no to a previous way of showing up and being in the world so I can fully embrace this new sense of identity.
It's really getting your priorities straight, isn't it? It's really figuring out, okay, if
Yeah.
I've only got 4 more big projects, I've got to really focus on that. Well, our show is called Leading with Gratitude. It's based on our book, Leading with Gratitude. And our publishers created this fun little commercial that we show in every show. We got endorsed by Alan Mullally, the guy who saved the Ford Motor Company. He said, I love, love, love this book. And then, the marketing kicks in, a not so subtle call to action. Buy me, buy me, buy me. So, so Michael, let me ask you. So, you know,
Wait a
you
sec, wait a
you
sec. I'm just buying
you
your book. I mean, I've already got 3 copies, but I'm just buying another copy. I don't know why. It's the subliminal advertising. It's working brilliantly.
2 more clicks, you'll be there. Yeah. So I want to talk to you about gratitude though, because you do coach
Yeah.
people up and you have these big projects. How does gratitude play in this? Live a better life. Make sure you prioritize. Does it have a role?
I think so. I have a practice that I took from a guy called Neil Pazrika, and it's a version of practices other people have, I'm sure. But I ask myself 3 questions in the start of a morning. I go, what am I letting go of? It's a way of kind of clearing out the debris and kind of acknowledging jealousies and pettiness and frustrations and kind of trying to release the grip on me a little bit. I ask, what am I grateful for? And then I ask, what's one thing that I will focus on today? And to me, you can guess that the one thing I'm going to focus on at its best has a connection to the worthy goal that I'm trying to set. It's me naming my priority so that I can go, look, there'll be all these temptations, all these distractions. What's the one thing that will move me closer to my worthy goal? But I do think the gratitude piece is a way where you stop and you gather and you you collect courage and you increase your capacity for being brave and doing your worthy goal. And I think appreciation and gratitude can have a really significant role in that.
Oh, that's awesome. I do love the people that tune in and they're getting this great advice. Binosh from the UAE and Alejandro from Estonia. We've got Emma from Sunnybrook, sunny Hampshire in the UK. Is it really sunny in the UK? Are there sunny
It's
days
not.
in
She's
the
lying.
UK?
I've lived in the UK. It's never sunny in the UK. At its
And
best, it's
Anne
a
from
light gray.
Ontario. Yeah, it's a light gray. And we've got Anne from Ontario, right in your neighborhood.
Excellent. Just
It's
around the
it's it's
corner,
really
I'm sure.
interesting. Yeah. It's really interesting to me that you have that morning practice where you ask yourself those 3 questions. I've developed a mantra a little different than that, but that I got from a Buddhist practice where your mantra is, be kind, be grateful, and be of service. And to your point,
Mm,
to kind of set your day on that path
right.
you want to get to, right? So,
Jester, do you have
a lot of our
a singular focus of your service, or do you kind of rethink that every time you return to that mantra?
It's a great question. And, there are different areas where I serve in my life.
Mm,
Service to my family is very important to me. Am I serving my wife and my kids to make sure that they're
yeah, and
supported?
your grandkids, because I see
Um,
your grandkids on your social media all the time.
yeah, they're pretty cute. They're pretty cute, and the extended family. And then, am I being of service to Adrian Gostick, my co-author? he does
Mhm.
the writing and is brilliant, and anything I can do to support him. And then my third part is I'm not an atheist, and I'm very involved in my church, and I'm
Right.
actually a bishop. So I'm part of a congregation. And so every day I think, how can I best serve my flock? So there are those things. Now, a friend of mine said, need to add a fourth one there, and that is, how are you serving yourself? And I think that comes part of saying no to some other things so that you can take care of yourself. Well, listen, I want to ask you about anxiety. So, we wrote a book
Mhm.
called Anxiety at Work, and we have a podcast on anxiety at work. By the way, the number one mental health podcast in Kazakhstan as we speak. So
Nailed it.
you got to be number one somewhere. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, exactly.
I think what you're talking about here, especially that part about saying no and have good direction, is having those set goals. Do you think that would actually reduce people's anxiety when you've got that kind of direction and that kind of focus? Does that fit, or am I
Well,
reaching?
I here's one way it reduces anxiety, which is you're like, I feel like I've got a sense of direction that is thoughtful. You know, a key takeaway from this book is draft your worthy goals. Do a draft, do a second draft, do a third draft, and fine tune it so it feels like it does light you up, thrilling, serve the world, important, stretch you and grow you, daunting. So I think it reduces a bigger picture anxiety. But I also think that the nature of committing to a worthy goal brings its own anxieties with it, because the very nature of a goal being daunting means you know how to start it, but you may not really know how to finish it. And it's a real invitation to kind of feel your way forward, not just in the work that needs to be done, but towards the next sense of who you are. The emotional heart of this book is we unlock our greatness by working on the hard things. But when you're working on the hard things, it means you don't entirely know what you're doing. And you have moments where you're like, what? Help. I'm just making stuff up here. So I think that it reduces a existential anxiety, but increases a sort of tactical anxiety. And I'm fine with that, because
Yeah.
that moment of understanding that you're learning and you're stretching and you're growing, that is what's cracking you open to be the next best version of yourself.
Yeah. I love that, the journey of discovery. And you do get anxious and you're wondering. I love the line from Talking Heads where he goes, well, how did I get here? It's just that realization. Hey, we want to give a real quick shout out to our sponsor at Methods of. They've got these great leadership courses you can get online. I know most of these people.
I do.
Marshall,
I know all of
or
these
Tom.
people. They're all great people.
They are. And if you listen to this show, all you got to do is when you check out, you sign up for that annual membership, and all you got to do is put Gratitude 2022 in the checkout box, and you get a 50% discount. It's a great deal. Take a screenshot. You'll love it. Well, listen, we've been talking to Michael Bungay Stanier. His new book is How to Begin, Start Doing Something That Matters. I've known Michael for quite some time now. His books are so easy. They're so conversational. They are beyond brilliant. Go to his website to get more of the free stuff, howtobegin.com. And I said this will be the third time. Seriously, buy 2 copies, one for you and one for somebody that you love. Hey, as we
So that
wrap
makes
up,
6
Michael,
copies in total, because three mentions, 2 copies are mentioned. We're up to 6. You can probably get a bulk discount at 6 copies.
Absolutely. Hey, we ask everybody as we wrap up the show, where did you find your gratitude today, Michael?
Well, it was in that moment of checking in for me in the morning. And what I wrote this morning was, I'm just grateful that the weather is slightly milder today so that I can go for a walk, because it's been pretty bitterly cold here in Ontario for the last little while. So, you don't have to be grateful for the big things. Sometimes it's just noticing the small thing right here, right now, can make all the difference. So that's what I'm grateful for, which is I'll be able to get out and go for a walk today.
That's awesome. Hey, this is our amazing team. We got JP in the Question Command Center in Wichita, Kansas. We got Christy Lawrence in Atlanta. You're up in Ontario. I'm in New Jersey. Brent, our producer, is in Austin, Texas. We've got a tradition. We dance it out, Michael. So we are grateful for your time. We're grateful for everybody that tuned in. We always say, be grateful, be kind, and be forgiving. So let's dance it out. With any kind of luck, we'll see you next Thursday, Leading with Gratitude Live. Woo, that is one good move.